Hey folks, Rich here, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. And this is just a quick, short video because if I learn something new, I want to share it with you guys. And thanks to a viewer named Eugene Simpson, I learned something new. And I can't believe I got to the age of 70 years old and I didn't know this. I don't know whether to feel like an idiot or not. I really don't. Uh, Today's topic is acetone and its use in propolis. Now, I've used acetone my whole life, mostly for flashing. If you don't know the term flashing, many woods like teak have an awful lot of oil in them. And if you want to glue a split piece of teak back together, you have to flash it. You put acetone on it and you wipe down the two sides. And as soon as the acetone evaporates, which happens very quickly, you put your glue on before the oils have a chance to come back up to the surface. Also have used it for various types of cleanup and thinning and things like that. And I've always treated it with the greatest of respect and caution because I've always thought that it was something that could be kind of dangerous. I've always used rubber gloves when I had to handle it. You know, if I was using a rag with acetone on it to clean something, I've always protected my hands and such. And I've always worked in a very well ventilated place. And I've just treated it as something that I needed to be careful around. Didn't have to be afraid of, but I needed to be careful around. And Eugene said that he uses acetone for doing his propolis production, for making his propolis tinctures and such. I have this on white so that you can see it. And so I had to research it. Since I figure I won't find anything under acetone and propolis, I tried acetone and lacquer chips. And sure enough, it came up. Apparently, it's not the best for lacquer chips in the sense that it tends to make a rubbery coating on them. But if you use the alcohol in it and then you use the acetone added to that, then it dries a whole lot faster and a whole lot nicer. And that led me down the road, as it were. And most of the information I'm going to pass on now came from the January 2010 issue of Workshop News. Most solvents are either hazardous air pollutants or volatile organic compounds, VOCs or HAPs, and they have warnings on the label and such, which I was surprised. Really didn't think about that. In this case, acetone is neither one, and there's only one other solvent that is also neither one. That solvent is water. That just blew my mind. I had no idea that the only two solvents used in chemistry and industry and such, water is one solvent that doesn't have any of these dangers, and the other one is acetone. I did not know that. I'm gobsmacked is the best word I can come up with for it. So, at any rate, I did a series of experiments. So the one in the middle here, this is some old propolis sludge that has been re-energized with alcohol time and time and time again, so that I would not have a quarter of this color in it, right? This is just a jar of sludge that is used for nothing but painting the inside of beehives and such. So I took a scoop of that out, put it in that jar, and I put some acetone in it, and very quickly got a very good color on it. That's about as much color as I would get if it was fresh propolis and I was using 91% alcohol on it. So speaking of fresh propolis from this container right here, put a bit of it in here and put some acetone straight on it. Look how intense that is. And I'm quite sure that if I tripled the amount of acetone in that jar right now, that and gave it a few shakes, I would probably have just about as much. Now, what's in this jar? Well, in this jar is the scrapings from my smoker, which is what I put alcohol with to make the liquid smoke that I like to put with the vinegar that I coat my hands with. And this was played out. I couldn't, adding more alcohol to this, I wasn't getting anything. And so I had already drained off all the alcohol, and there was just the sludge on the bottom. So I poured a little acetone in there and got this tremendously deep, dark color on it. Now, can you take that and put it in alcohol? You sure can. Well, how long is the acetone going to last? Well, glad you asked that question, because apparently acetone has an evaporation rate of 5.6, which is very high. Alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, has an evaporation rate of 1.4. Now, I didn't confirm it, but I'm assuming that the one would be water. Okay, so if I have extracted this as a liquid solvent in the acetone and I pour it into alcohol, it's just going to mix with the alcohol, and then the acetone is quickly going to evaporate off. Now, mind you, I'm not using this for internal medical uses, and I wouldn't even use something that had acetone on it on my skin, but I would certainly paint woodenware and such with this and let the acetone evaporate off very quickly. In fact, the first 2 bucket traps that I made, the first thing I did was to wipe down the insides of them with acetone to get rid of the shiny, slick coating on the inside before I coated them with propolis. You didn't hear that on the videos because I did the next few without it. It didn't seem to make much difference. So it's not something I bothered to report when I talked about making my bucket traps. But it just blew my mind. I had no idea that acetone was as relatively safe as it is. And apparently it's non-reactive with alcohol. It's non-reactive with water. I don't know what else. It's apparently non-reactive with a lot of solvents.
It sounds like you're telling us that acetone is a better extractive to make propolis tincture than alcohol.
If you want to make a whole lot of it for external use only, and I would say for use in your bee hives, you could definitely use acetone. I mean, obviously, alcohol is cheaper and safer for you just to be around in general. This may not be dangerous, but I'm still going to err on the side of caution there. But yes, he says he gets a much better production with very little waste left over, and I believe him completely, because the only limiting factor there that we have this much sludge is the fact that I didn't put much in there. This is apparently a very good way to make most efficient use of your propolis. Is if you're not getting what you want from the alcohol. Oh, I wish I had a hive tool with me. There we go. Oops. Well, that's not a good idea. I was almost going to do a demonstration where I shook that back up, because I had noticed when I shook this earlier today that it settled almost immediately. Now you can see I just tripled the amount of acetone in there, and even though it's cloudy at the moment, it's going to be just about as dark as it was. So yeah, apparently we have a much better way to process propolis into a varnish for the inside of your hives using acetone. And there's nothing to say that you can't cut this 50-50 with alcohol to make a product that you feel more comfortable with as well. But I don't have anything I need to apply it to right this minute, but I'm going to be doing more tests on it. But I just had to share this little bit of information. Thanks so much to Eugene for pointing me in this direction. So this is Rich. This is South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Be sure to like and subscribe.